That's kind of what we were talking about earlier that I think is interesting when you were talking about that. People get real defensive, and their ideas have become part of their identity. They get real defensive.
Yeah.
I have this feeling that I didn't invent it. It goes all the way back to Stoicism, but other people more recently, like Malcolm Gladwell and stuff, is that's a dangerous practice. You should hold your ideas lightly and away from you, because if you let your ideas become your identity, all you can do is defend them, because it actually feels painful when they're being challenged.
Right.
But the important thing to note is that it's completely unnecessary.
Yeah.
You don't need any of these ideas to be part of your identity.
Right.
Like, you need very few, I think. That's why I don't jump. I get in trouble with people sometimes because I don't jump to join teams or form opinions or draw lines. Like right now, it's very popular to pick a team like Israel or Palestine, or even some people support Hamas, which I really don't understand. But what I know right now is that I don't know.
Right.
I don't have good information.
Yeah,
and the only thing I'm getting
sucks.
is people trying to sell me an emotional argument to make me take an idea, make it part of my identity, so I'll go do some crazy shit too. And I'm not doing any of that.
No.
You be mad at me if you want. Maybe I should have jumped quickly to support Israel or something. Maybe I should have. But I'm not sure.
Yeah, because you see all of these, all these different avenues of information that come at you just in the last week of this stuff going on. Let's say the catalyst for us even talking about this right now, the recent events, and then you got people saying, "Oh, are you rushing to support Israel?" And then they're showing videos of what Israel has done, and they're pulling babies out of wreckage, and this terrible stuff too. So this idea of feeling like the information you get is whole, it's hard to like line in the sand with any of these opinions.
Well, and here's the thing with that: like, there's the people that live there have trouble deciding.
Yeah.
And I'm really far away, and all I get is this shitbag propaganda. So I know that I can't decide what's what.
That's one of the things that
I just feel bad.
I feel bad for anybody that's just dying for the stuff. That like I feel like on both sides of the aisle, I don't think God wants either one of you to do that. As far as this being a religious war, I would imagine that God would love everybody to have some sort of compromise and not do that. But
I don't know, unless he's an angry, jealous God.
God, exactly. Yeah, just
maybe he does want them to kick each other's ass.
Yeah, just a kid burning ants, with a magnifying glass and watching them squirm. But that's one of the things
it doesn't seem right, though.
It does not. One of the things I wish would have came out of COVID universally on every side of the aisle is making information really vetted. And one of the reasons why I thought people would universally go that direction is because it's scary. And I'm not even saying anybody was right or wrong. It's scary to think that there could possibly be a flat out public service announcement coming across your screens and your phones, the most propaganda machine ever invented in the world, about an incoming actual disaster, and people feel like they can't believe it. And I'm not talking about if it was real or not, if they overreacted and the information, but it's scary, and it is a bad thing that people can't trust and believe that, because what if there is one that's really coming out next year, and it's really going to be this thing that just wipes out half of us, and there is something you could do about it, and all the news agencies came out and stuff they were telling us was the truth.
I would never even see it.
You wouldn't buy it.
I would never even see it.
People wouldn't believe it.
I haven't watched legacy news in 12 years.
Yeah, I don't watch that shit anymore either. I would see some crazy stuff probably thrown across the feed when I'm on, Facebook posting something,
and I would swipe right past that shit.
Yeah,
I see that shit.
I don't want to read that
all the
shit.
time.
It's because it's same
deal.
The
world's
it's
ending.
polarized.
World's ending.
So it's dangerous that you can't believe it now. You can't believe the news, because there are some things that I feel like
I think it's even more dangerous than that, to tell you the truth.
Probably.
You were old enough too. You probably remember, like, we came off of like the tail end of the Cold War. Which was the tail end of like Soviet communism. And I wasn't too far off of like Stalin days and Maoist China and
Right.
North Korea, and if you really remember that stuff and look back on it, how did those countries get to where they were, to where they could do those heinous things? They were doing exactly what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
Information became unreliable.
Yeah.
People's
Weaponized.
personalities, their identities became disrupted. Ideas were freedom of speech and ideas were shut down. People were afraid to exchange ideas. Like everything the U.S. was built on was to avoid the very
crazy,
thing
isn't
that
it?
we're doing right now.
It's crazy.
That's scary. It's what's scarier is than we might not believe a disaster coming would be something like we're all stepping into tyranny and asking to be subjugated.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
It could definitely happen for real. I feel like nobody believes it in our country. Like this false sense of security certainly is happening.
yeah, that's why sometimes with that kind of stuff I can entertain the simulation theory, because it feels like let's just throw some crazy shit into the video game and see how these people react. Because, when you start a country based on, people that fled, a certain tyranny to then just instantly start the witch trials, when you have all these, when you got a whole country that just believed in a blonde-haired, blue-eyed Aryan race from a guy with brown hair and brown eyes.
Yeah.
When you see some of the shit we
It sounded ridiculous.
Yeah.
And now we're saying the same shit that sounds ridiculous, essentially.
Yeah.
Like
How you end up, people, you see these cycles, but you also know that if you don't pay attention to history, you're doomed to repeat it. There's all of that stuff. And now you hear all these things too that about certain areas in our country that are even trying to change history books to make us look better, because it didn't look really good. Slavery.
it's not even the first edit.
Oh, right.
Like we started off with a good edit.
Hell yeah. Yeah. I mean, the idea that we grew up like, Thanksgiving was Peanuts, show, and we
Right.
actually had turkey and we came over. It's like, nah, it's not quite how that happened.
Yeah, the Native Americans offered up everything they could with muzzle loaders pointed at their backs.
Yep. Yeah. And then I saw one today I thought was amazing. It said something about like, so you think it's a picture of this very disappointed looking Native American, and it says, so what you're telling me is that the people in Israel should have that land because their ancestors owned it.
Damn it.
And you're seeing people, Americans, that are like, saying this stuff, and it's just like, we just came over to a country, we discovered a country that already had people on it, which is an interesting idea anyway.
That's definitely a weird contradiction with like what you would call moral improvement.
Yeah.
Like if you improve morally, we come up with better ideas to be more empathetic and more inclusive, but we still live standing on top of our old history. What are we supposed to go back and make good on all the bad shit in history, or
you can't.
Or do we just start from here? Or
Right.
you know what I mean? Like how does this go, dude?
Well, I mean, you kind of
And
You
when do you
can't,
stop
though.
going back?
right. You
know
have
what I
to
mean?
move forward.
Like, okay, was Palestinian people there? Okay, but before them, the Jewish people were there. What about before that?
Right. Before that.
Like, how far do you go back?
Yeah, and I think the best thing you can do is to change the behavior that caused these terrible things and to not do those again, because there is no apology for what certain countries and things have done. There's no real amount of money that makes slavery go away and cool now. It's like there's no version that it's like, oh well, we paid everybody that has ancestry to this horrible event, the Holocaust, or whatever all these things are.
Sure.
And so now they're like, okay, well, we've been waiting for the price tag on that. The whole time we've just been trying to tell you that it'd all go away if you gave us $1 million. You can't do that financially, anything. So at some point you hope to move on and make the wrongs right in the future and not do those terrible things in the first place. And you also have to let people change. As a tattoo artist, I know so many tattooers that someone could come in that has a swastika tattoo and they want it covered up, and so many tattooers like, fuck that guy, I ain't covering that shit up. Own it, be that. And it's like, but when you see somebody that makes that decision and thinks that way and gets that tattoo, aren't you thinking, isn't the origin of the thoughts that you have about that have something to do with the idea of how they shouldn't believe that way, and why does someone think like that? And wouldn't it be awesome if people that thought that way didn't think that way anymore? So sometimes people that do these bad things or think a certain bad way, we won't let them change.
Right.
We stick it to them forever. It's like, oh no, you can't have that opinion now because I can go back on and see the footage of when you thought this and that. And
that's so
you're
stupid.
A piece of shit forever.
Yeah. That's
like,
what I was talking about earlier, man. Like, you have to be able to let your ideas change.
Yeah.
If you want to grow. But you also have to be able to let other people's ideas change.
Yes.
And it's so crazy to be critical of people when they make a mistake. And it's even crazier to look back on a mistake they made in the past. Mm-hmm. Especially the further back you go, the crazier it is. Here's why it's crazy. Because everybody, any of us have ever met, has fucking screwed up bad.
Yeah.
Or they've never tried at anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
So either they're lying about it or they're owning it,
mm-hmm.
and they're changing, taking responsibility for it. And you have, like, man, if you're going to have faith in something, it should be that people can change.
That should be a great thing when someone does that, instead of just grinding in their mistakes still forever.
Well, and I think it's the thing you want to have faith in, because it means you don't have to kill them.
Yeah, right.
Generally speaking.
Yeah, that would be nice. Because, that's weird. I have it just makes me think of a topic that I struggle with, that in everything I believe, I 100% hands down understand killing people to prove that killing people is wrong seems fucked up. Like capital punishment, like that kind of stuff. I totally get that at my core, and the beauty of life and people changing and all this stuff. I totally get that, while also being the guy that if you kicked down my door one night and raped and murdered my wife and children, I know that the capital punishment, I would be against, because I want to do it.
Yeah, sure.
It's like, I don't want you to, fry that guy. I want to do it. So like this idea where I know that my natural reaction would be to just want to absolutely destroy this human for, killing my wife and kids, is also that weird juxtaposition I have of feeling like, I know that that's not in an evolved society. That's not how you handle that. And
it's not even morally the best choice.
No, it's not.
I feel like it's best just to admit it. Like, this is the weakest version of me, and I'm still killing this motherfucker.
See, and I know, and that's how I feel about it. Yeah. I know that
I should be able to
forgive this guy
and hope that he can change, and really wish him well in the future, and maybe whatever. I just don't have it in me.
Yeah.
It's a great idea. I'll prescribe that idea to other people.
I know. Right? I'll tell everybody that I technically think that's how it should go, but and that's what's hard. It's very it's hard for me to be hypocritical. I try not to be. At least. I know I do at some point, but
but that's the whole Palestine-Israel thing. I feel like people are watching that and they're throwing all those virtues out there and signaling them on everything, and I'm like, no, you wouldn't do any of that.
No,
if you were a Palestinian. Even if you wanted peace, you would have probably voted for Hamas. Yeah. Because they stood a chance to be strong enough to help you. You probably would have made that mistake too. Yeah, I would have. If I was Israel and then, Hamas did that shit I feel like I would hope that I could be like reasonable, but I wouldn't be reasonable. Yeah. If there was a guy hiding behind women killing my children, I probably would become weak and kill those women just to kill that man.
Yeah, you want to take that dude out. Yeah.
And that's an awful. It's an awful win with no real answer. And I feel like I can't jump around on sides on this, man. I know.
I get it.
I know I would fail at all of those tests those people are going through. So I can't. What do I do? Judge them for failing at all these tests?
Yeah, because
I can't.
I have two totally different answers based on if I'm coming from my higher self versus what I would want to do.
Yeah.
And
Let's be
that's,
realistic.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's like, I get it.
If I were there, I would fail.
Yeah, I'd get you wanting to wipe the people out when they do that. I get a lot of that stuff. And, that's why it's hard to think of, because you are just so you, that it's hard to imagine what you would think if you had spent your life and you were raised in one of those sides in this conflict or in this country. Like, what's the chances that still inside your head, or you've evolved to be Dustin in Indiana, that you would even recognize who you were?
Yeah. I'm the
if you
sum
were,
of my whole experience. Those people have no experience similar to mine.
yeah, because everybody sees these things like, well, I wouldn't do that. It's like, yeah, but you're not them. You're not in that position. You've lived a luxury of life where you haven't, you're not worried about getting bombed by another country going to school.
You haven't watched people blowing up in front of you for the last 15 years straight
Yeah.
or more.
I mean, like, there's this argument that I totally get that 9/11 was terrible. But there's a lot of other countries that when that happened and how we were just like so losing our minds about it, which we should have. It's terrible. But there was other countries out there going, welcome to the party.
Yeah.
This has been going on over here for a long ass time.
That's a
and
Tuesday, bro.
Yeah, right. That's like, I have a 50-50 chance of getting blown up at Starbucks.
Yeah.
So we
not-
really like the coffee here,
it's
apparently.
so not funny, but it's a good point because you also see a lot of college students rioting and shit and having these huge protests and losing their minds in our country when like something
Yeah.
bad happens somewhere else. I'm like, okay, settle down though. Like, I know you mean well, but you're 19.
Right.
You've
I
lived
know.
in $1 million condo your entire life, and now you live with a couple of your buddies in a multi-$100 million university, and you're still getting your ass wiped. Like, but you're telling somebody who's grew up in Israel their whole life what they should be doing.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm not sure you're qualified.
And in my experience, one of the hardest art of conversation that we were talking about earlier to have is, it's hard to talk to somebody who's young and has these opinions. And it's basically this idea that wisdom is associated with older people. And it's not because you're older and you're necessarily smarter. It's you've had so much more experience. You've had so much more time on this earth to see something you thought a certain way about pan out, happen to you, and go totally different, that it's hard to talk to a young person and have them not take it like you're belittling them when there's a certain amount of what they're talking about lacks a bigger presence and a bird's eye view. And, it's like, well, you're talking like someone who's never experienced anything like that, or you've been lucky enough to not experience certain loss or have these certain difficult decisions you had to make where you felt like there wasn't a good answer, where you're picking the less of two evils. And wisdom is a certain amount of experience. And like the college students doing some of this stuff, it's there's even like a kind of an old saying that has something to do with young liberal, old conservative, that when you're younger and you don't have shit, you want everything for free. But then when you get older and you've worked your ass off, you're like, fuck you, kid. That's right. And that's something that, I've seen with conversations I have with people, is like, they feel like, well, you're going to pay for everything. No, I didn't get to. But then there's that mindset of, well, but wouldn't it have been nice if you did have this help? Wouldn't it have been cool? Like, just because there's some people that got treated like shit in a certain way and feel like, well, you need to be treated like shit too. And then there's other people that have the reaction of like, well, you shouldn't. And I shouldn't have been treated like shit. Like, oh my God, my apprenticeship was terrible and I had to wash my, my mentor's car and kiss his ass. So I'm going to make you do that. I'm going to haze you too.
Yeah.
But then there's other people like, I fucking hated that. I'm not going to do that to someone else, so, yeah.
Man, wouldn't it be great if everybody just wanted to be better for the next person?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's challenging though, because it is challenging too, because like I'm a parent. So as a
Yeah.
parent, you like your first inclination is to like make your kids not go through difficult shit.
Mm-hmm.
And then you start to realize they get a little older, like the way you make them like happy is to let them go through difficult shit and get experience.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can't tell them.
No.
I mean, you can, but the best you'll get is, oh man, Dad was right.
Yeah.
After they do it anyway.
Uh-huh.
Like,
Oh, yeah.
you know what I mean? You're not going to get them to be like, hold on, my dad said this
Right.
was a bad idea.
Bad idea.
So I'm not going to do it. That's not realistic.
That's one of the things that I was telling one of my kids is that they were talking about not wanting to have children. It's like, yeah, totally get it. No judgment, no big deal. But I think that is, as far as wisdom and experience, there is something that you will gain from having children that you'll just never get if you don't.
True.
You know, this idea of like, when you have children, at least for me, I understood my parents so much better. I mean, some of the stuff that I would be like, oh, you know, my dad this or blah, blah, blah. I've kind of experienced maybe and done the same thing. And you're like, shit, that's how that can happen. You know, and you understand that parenting is a shit job. It's awesome. I love my kids, and I've been very lucky. I have super cool kids. Pretty easy for the most part. But it's hard.
If it wasn't deeply meaningful, no one would do it.
Fuck
but it
no.
turns out that it's the most meaningful thing you will ever do.
Oh, it's awesome.
And I've never
Yeah.
believed that either.
Trying to put cool people in the world, man.
Yeah. And it's impossible to explain it. And I was like one of those people that was like, I'm never having kids.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And nobody could tell me otherwise.
Right.
And I did it late.
Yeah. And I would even go as far with me, and I'm not trying to tell everybody how to parent their kids, but like, yeah, people out there, that fucking, what is it called? It's an app. It's called like Live something where everybody just tracks their fucking kids now all day, all day, every day. Something live.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Life live or something.
Yeah.
Fuck off with that shit. I mean, have your kids maybe have their Find My iPhone on. If something happens, you're going to know their last place they were. But man, me and you got to grow up in a time. I'm Generation X. We were a little latchkey. We were a little like,
Yeah.
you know, you came home and you fended for yourself until mom and dad got home from school. It was like, hey, get on your fucking bike and bicycle and run around, be home by dark.
Yeah.
You know, you have fights, you solve some problems, you figure out some shit. You
Barely
had
survive a few times.
Yeah, you had some responsibilities. You know, this idea of living today as a kid, I think is awesome. The internet's great. There's so many things about it that's
be.
rad. But this idea that parents are, I mean, my daughter's in college. We just took her to Bloomington. She was telling me about friends of hers that had their mom call me like, yeah, you're driving too fast. Because she was going 45 and a 35, and like your mom's got you on this app that knows
Live,
everywhere.
real time.
Yeah, like I thought you had a test tomorrow. Why aren't you back in the dorm room studying? And
Oh,
just
parenting from a distance.
oh yeah, like
Oh, shit.
like,
When is
'cause
a kid going to learn to do it on her own if you can't do it at college?
yeah, like you know, bird dogging and just helicoptering your kid to that
Yeah.
much just because you can. You know, it's almost like that idea that you know funerals are for the living. I feel like sometimes like that bird dog shit. That's about you're not able to like give up this power over your kids. You know, and I get the worry, but like,
Yeah.
man, at some point you have to
The
let go.
the devouring mother story.
Yeah, you gotta let the kid, you know, experience some of this stuff. You gotta let them fuck up a little bit. I tried to not all
That's
the
a
time
good-
talk down to my kids. I try to include them in
Shouldn't you're right. And shouldn't we do that for everyone?
Yeah,
I mean, really,
should.
like this. I'm sorry, I'm always stuck on this because this cancel culture shit really burns my
dude.
ass. It
I
really burns my
agree.
ass. It's okay if somebody makes a mistake. It doesn't mean the mistake was okay. They need to take responsibility for it.
yes.
Sure.
Oh, but didn't
What-
to ruin everything about their life for fucking ever.
The history of their life,
You did
their
something
their
wrong.
entire memory, their legacy, just ruin them.
Destroyed.
Or even bring up something from their past to do it in
Yeah.
the
high
in
school.
the present time. It's nuts.
There's people that got destroyed over something they did in high school.
Well,
I
how
think
long-
we've all been better. We've grown since high school.
Right. How long does it take everybody to figure out you don't want to do that because you don't want it done to you?
Right.
How long does that take?
Yeah, we won't dig up everyone's fucking skeletons.
We all got it. Yeah,
Oh, dude. Yeah, there are a lot of bones in closets of shit that you didn't think.
Especially people that want to people that try hard, take lots of risks, and try to make shit happen in life. They screw up even more.
Yeah.
But you don't want to. So what do you want?
We have to be perfect forever.
Wait, what does that actually mean? That means people are going to try to screw up less, which means trying less and doing less. Do you really want the whole culture to just be trying not to screw up?
Yeah. I mean,
that means nobody's doing shit.
Do you imagine if you actually wanted to try to be president, what you open yourself up for to be in politics? No. I mean, like, if you've ever done anything wrong, I mean, like my kids.
Even if you haven't.
Right.
They're still going to say some shit.
Yeah.
And some abuse some rhetoric. Make some, yeah.
One of them that I bring up a lot as far as this idea of one of the things I saw happen socially that I thought was very interesting and kind of, showed a little bit lack of wisdom and overall intelligence with emotional reactions was the Brett Kavanaugh thing. When the guy, the Supreme Court justice, when he was running to be on the Supreme Court, the lady came out that said that, like in college, that he had like sexually assaulted her. Mm-hmm. I saw people on both sides posting what a piece of shit he was. This rapist, he did this to this woman when he says he didn't. And then all these other people are like getting mad about it. And saying, this crazy, terrible woman, she's lying on this man because the Democrats are paying her. If you have an opinion on that and you watch the trials and you feel like you maybe read some body language and there were some things and you feel like you had an opinion on if he did it or not, if she's lying or not, I understand that. That's how opinions work. When you're mad about it, when you're throwing that shit out at the world, that's when you need to start to see a unintelligent, unwise reaction that you were having because only 2 fucking people on earth know if it happened or not. Him and her.
And it's not happening now.
It's not. And I thought that I wish one of them would have admitted it. I didn't care which one.
Right.
I wish if she would have came out, and it would have helped the world if someone pointed it out. If she would have came out and said, yeah, the Democrats paid me and I'm lying. Then everybody that shit on that man for 2 months would feel like, wow, I'm a dick. He didn't rape her, or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And if he came out and said, I did assault her. That was a bad call. I've regretted it ever since.
Yeah.
I apologize. Then everybody that shat on her for months would realize that wasn't uncool. And you see that same thing happening. That was just one of them that I specifically stood out to me because literally only 2 people on earth could know
and you'll never
enough
know
to
now.
have a really passionate opinion.
And you'll never know now. And that's my biggest qualm with cancel culture is because even if someone wanted to take responsibility,
right,
there's no forgiveness to be had in the culture. No one can admit to making a mistake.
No.
Which is a weird situation because we're all doing it.
Yeah.
Every person that you see on TV is making a mistake or will soon.
Can you blame someone for denying shit?
You have to.
Because you're fucked if you deny it.
You have to.
Yeah, you're fucked if you deny it because no one's going to believe you and cancel you anyway. But if you admit it, they're never going to let you overcome it and be better. They're never going to let you be sorry for it. I mean, it's like Louis C.K.
Yeah,
His
everybody will
great.
distance themselves from you.
Oh, yeah. Like Louis C.K. stand-up when he came out after his accusations was like, just so you guys know, you guys all got weird shit that you're into. Be thankful that the world don't know your weird shit. Yeah. He's like, I asked a room. He's like, my opinion is if you're in a room, people, and you ask them, hey, you mind if I whip it out and play it myself? And they say yes. After that, your response should be, are you sure? Because he kind of admitted it. His only thing was like, I don't know. I like people watching me play with myself. But he's like, I did ask him, but it's, and I guess they got to really do it. But, there's been a lot of things that I think, people go too far before they know. It did become a little like guilty before proven innocent.
So now you can be guilty by association.
Oh, man.
So let me give this example.
So much power in accusations.
Yeah. Let's say somebody did screw up 10 years ago and they took responsibility for it, admitted to it, whatever. But they still happen to be a good attorney or a really good judge.
And did amazing stuff, yeah.
And you choose to use that person's service or whatever. What, are you an asshole now? Are you, you know what I mean?
Are you a dick when an R. Kelly song comes on and you jam to it?
Yeah, I don't.
You know, I Believe I Could Fly comes on, you're supposed to just hate it, or Michael Jackson.
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
I
Yeah.
love Michael Jackson as a kid.
Yeah.
Michael Jackson's music's dope as fuck.
I know.
You know, and I'm supposed to just like hate his music. You
Yeah.
can't separate the art from the artist.
I don't know. That's a weird thing. What are we supposed to do?
There's a lot of artistic
I like
types
the
out there that are
Cosby
weird.
Show, man.
Fuck yeah. Dude, that changed my life. Just so you know. I now, and I hate it that it's that way,
Yeah.
but this whole, oh man, there's no way that guy could have done it or this person could have done that. I'm like, you know, I go back to that every time. When you grew up with the most wholesome family man on the fucking planet that wouldn't even curse on a stand-up show, everything was just family, all this
Yeah.
stuff, and helping his community and all this, and you found out for years he's just been drugging and raping chicks. I'm like, I don't know. Everybody, it goes back to before we started this, actually filming this. We're talking about, you know, these masks that people wear.
Yeah.
You know, that you,
Was he
the
just
serial
was he
killers look
just-
like everyone else.
Was he
you know?
just selling that, or
Yeah. Or was that real? But he also, you know, had a slight fetish for drugging and raping women. While also somehow having this wholesome family mentality.
yeah?
Seems
Well, and
weird.
am I a dick because I liked the show?
Yeah, can you not like
You
it
know,
now?
do you have to?
You probably can't find it on anywhere. That's for fuck's sake. You better have that on VHS, bro.
Right.
'Cause that ain't on Nick at Night anymore.
Lock the door. Shut the curtains. We're watching the Cosby Show.
We're gonna get real risky. I'm gonna get canceled as fuck. I'm watching the Cosby Show.
Yeah, man, what a weird time to be alive, dude.
Yeah.
What a weird time. And we have to accelerate the shit out of everything. It's like, hold on, we don't know what to do anymore, so let's accelerate the shit out of it.
Yeah.
Let's move it as fast as we can and connect everybody as fast as we can and
Dude.
see what happens.
Yeah, and it's
Oh, wait.
gonna get
Oh, wait.
crazier.
Oh, wait. If that wasn't weird enough, let's introduce AI.
I was getting ready to say that. Yeah. Now it's like, holy shit.
Do you think AI is the savior or
I
or the end?
I get people's fear. We've all seen Terminator, you know.
Power is scary.
Oh fuck, dude.
It's power.
Yeah, I fucking use it. I think it's dope, dude. I
do too.
use ChatGPT to help come up with prompts for Midjourney to help me come up with cool ideas for tattoos.
Yeah.
Like the AI imagery is amazing. Like
The
doing,
generative fills.
oh shit,
Oh,
dude. Like the
if you're not using that, you lose.
well, as far as like, for example, being a realism tattooer, you know, I'm supposed to be against it. Everybody, like artists, you know,
Really?
and yeah, because there's this idea that that people have said. So there's a really great guy that I got to know well when I was tattooing in New York, and he's a illustrator. That's how he makes his money. And his post was how that's just killing jobs and all that, which unfortunately all technology throughout time has kind of done. The cotton gin kicked everybody out of the fields.
Yeah.
You know, there's all of that kind of mentality that, you know, advancement does at some point, you know, kills jobs. Storefronts are going away.
And starts new ones.
It does,
Hopefully, yeah.
absolutely. But his thing was, you know, that you can type not only I want a lion playing football with a beaver, you know,
Right.
but you can say in the style of Crayola Simpkins, in the style of, you know, this illustrator, that illustrator, this artist, Picasso, and it'll come out and looking just like Picasso painted it.
Yeah.
But my argument against that is that, but that's what humans do.
On the inside.
We look at all the art in the world, and we are influenced by all the art around us, and the paintings and the music that other people have made. You know, that's why when we hear a band that we like and we're trying to tell it to somebody, what do you say? Oh, it's like if you took Metallica and crossed it with Linkin Park. You know, you compare it to something else because there are those comparisons. Or this artist is like if you took a cartoonist and crossed him with Monet. You know, so that's kind of what it's doing. But as a realism artist, and you come to me for the 700th time this month. Sorry, I'm going to fuck with some clients. And you want a lion, you know. I'm going to get online, and there's 4 dope-ass references of lions that are make cool tattoos because you want the lion roaring, because you're a king and you're a badass, or it's a Jesus thing, or whatever, the Lion Tribe of Judah stuff. You want a crown on him. I've seen the same reference done 8,000 times of this roaring lion. But now I can get on Midjourney, roaring lion, and just get 1,000 dope lions that have never been created or tattooed before, and they're all beautiful lighting. Yeah, it's all beautiful lighting, all well done. And I did a seminar years ago, and the first thing I told everybody in the room, and it was all realism artists, is I said, get rid of your Photoshop Google reference guilt. I was like, because our job is to do realism art every single day on demand. If you tell me that you want a mermaid in the ocean with a ship behind her and she's holding a conch shell and this and that, and you tell me you want it done in new school illustrative style or realism, oh, dude, what's going to be easier for me to come up with? For me, because I'm not a realism guy who also can't draw. Some realism guys actually don't have a drawing background. They're very good photocopiers, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's a lot of, professional painters that are amazing at that. But I would say illustrative, new school all day. There's no rules. I can make her do this position, blah, blah, blah. But when you tell me you want that to look realistic, that's fucking hard now. I got to find references for that because, Caravaggio, all these great painters from the past, they had these people, in the lighting in the room and posing with the outfits on and standing there for days. And for me to do everything from life, I would love that because that means, bro, so dying to do your lion. So I'm going to need you to go ahead and fly me out to Africa and put me on a safari so I can take my own pictures. Right. Then I'm going to come back and I'm going to sit and I'm going to do a painting of that. And then I'm going to be able to copy that painting on your arm. It's going to be a $50,000 tattoo. So psyched for it.
Right. Sign me up.
Fuck all day, dude. Side note, anybody out there that's into that process, I'm about it.
Yeah.
But like, I want this Lady of Liberty, but I want her super different. Okay, I got to find a model. I got to stand her up. But then I got to do that every fucking day. And so the idea that AI's come out, and now I can type in Lady Liberty standing on top of a thing, holding a sword and a deal with this angle, dramatic lighting, and the style of it's fucking dope. Because now I got all these references to choose from. I'm still combining my own stuff. I'm still taking this body and moving that around usually because it's not just straight perfect usually. I got to still do my thing. But it's an amazing tool, and I can't fucking sit here and lie and say I'm not using it.
It is. And there's still a step in between.
There is.
I mean,
because I still have to perform the task of tattooing it.
I like AI, and I think it's incredible tools, and I use a lot of them. I'm still surprised that it happened the way it did.
I am too.
That it turns out that AI was like the best at being creative and language oriented.
I wouldn't have guessed that either. I
like
think
what a
most
weird
people
place to start, dude.
Yeah, I think most people thought that the creative side of AI would probably be towards the end. That wouldn't be where it started. Yeah,
like it would require it to be sentient.
Yeah,
or sentient, depending on how you say it. But yeah.
But that also takes this weird thing about how what we think is so fucking special about us being human, and we just made something that can now be creative.
That isn't even intelligent yet. I mean, it's intelligent, but it's not conscious.
Oh, dude, you put that fucker in a quantum computer?
We all thought consciousness, our experience, was somehow, and maybe it is still better for creativity. Maybe there is still an element you can kind of feel in art that came from someone's imagination.
Totally. That
might still be better than the fact that AI can actually technically do it better than you.
Oh, it's an ego hit.
Yeah. Well, and I'm a writer. I have a book getting published right now. But awesome. What's fucked up about it is AI the language model came out right in the middle of this for me, and I was like, I'm trying out Chat GPT-3 and 4 and stuff, and thinking, how can I use this as a writing tool?
Right.
Like, okay, here's a sentence. Rewrite this, 11 different ways for me with this sort of active voice and whatever, and I can look at different ideas. And it became apparent to me very quickly this fucking thing was a better writer than me.
Right. And
then I got mad, and I was like, hold on. It's trained on all of the best authors of all time.
It's got just
And it's
instant access to the internet.
yeah. And I was like, well,
Published everything.
okay, hold on. Take this paragraph. I was like, write this like Shakespeare. And I'm like, shit.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, it's fucking mind-blowing.
Yeah, so I went through these phases, like, I'm not mad anymore. Now I think it's cool.
Right.
And then I went through the next phase, like, hold on. Language is, I have an English degree, and I really like communication. I focus on that a lot in all aspects of life. So I know how powerful it is. I feel like I equate everything that's meaningful to communication. So now I'm starting to get a little worried that the first thing we do is give everybody in the world a tool to be an amazing communicator.
Mm-hmm.
Because most people, I don't think anymore realize this, because people think we're all like an exception to being persuaded.
Yeah.
Everyone can be persuaded.
Oh, Jesus.
Especially
we were
with
talking about that earlier. Yeah.
Especially with a person who's good at it.
Yeah.
A person who can use language, the proper rhetoric, and knows how to abuse rhetoric in just the right ways, base things on truth, and anybody can be fooled. Mm-hmm. And now we're empowering everyone in the world to be able to fool you and be a better writer.
Yeah.
Like, that part's scary to me.
It is.
You can't even regulate that.
No. And because once it got put out there, when ChatGPT was just put out there for us to all play with, it became too late a little bit to bring that back. And what I think with the creative thing that people forget, and even the creative person using the tool, can forget sometimes, is that this thing it's programmed to do a creative act, but it's not on its own doing shit. It's not creating a damn book on its own. It's not without someone prompting it with the ideas that we have.
Sure.
So it's still me saying, I want the lion playing football with the beaver and the thing in the space.
That's why I'm not scared of AI, because it doesn't have a motivation.
It's still your creativity that's telling it about the book you're writing.
Yeah.
If you were to use it, it's still your story. To an extent, because writing, it's doing shit now that you are prompting, but not. You could be so sparse now and say, write me a murder mystery novel about this and that, and then it does all this detail that actually you didn't creatively put into it whatsoever.
Yeah. To me, that would be unethical, and I definitely didn't do that.
Right. People use it for lyrics. You're not going to be able to tell. I mean, dude, that's the stuff you've seen. Like, hey, write me a verse like Eminem.
It makes great music. It certainly does.
Yeah.
That's terrifying.
I have AI tools recently that I got for...
I
do music a lot. Yeah.
You were in some bands.
Oh, yeah, a lot of bands. I was always a singer, wrote lyrics. There's AI software now for recording that's amazing. That will actually... You can put it into your program, and now it'll like mix for you. You could play it, for example, I've seen programs now where you can say I'm writing a metal song.
You just set
and
the
I
parameters.
put in a Tool album. I have it analyze a Tool album.
Yeah.
And then I add that to my track, and it mixes and masters my track to sound like the same quality sounds of the Tool album.
That's incredible.
Whatever. And there's so many cool things that you can do with that. I think it's going to be... What the internet did for mankind is insane. I think what this is doing and is about to do is going to fucking just make that look like a tiny leap.
Yeah, it all could be amazing. Here's my thought on it, is I wish we were positioned to use it properly.
Right.
Culturally, I wish I had faith in everybody in our culture to use it properly.
Yeah, you always have to think of how, bad people are going to use great things.
Yeah.
Because there is a scary side of it that I totally get.
Yeah, there's lots of it, and I'm not even scared of like the crazy stuff. I'm scared of the basic stuff, like what happens when like everybody's publishing a book. Mm-hmm. When can you find one that's useful that offers new information? If it's not all written by ChatGPT.
Yeah, well, it's also you listen to a Beyonce song. And it has this lyrics that connect with you. And you're just like, oh my God, she's singing to me. And, this song makes you cry and it makes you tear up and all this stuff. Is the song any less when you find out it was written by 75 people and not her at all?
Right,
That is not
yeah.
her experience.
And
She
that,
didn't write those
right,
lyrics. She didn't break up with the guy and cried. Like,
yeah.
is it the, what is it that you connected with? If you connected with that book, that poem, that song, that piece of art,
Yeah.
is it worthless now because, the person you thought made it didn't? There is a thing about, I feel like, especially with art and expression and, poetry and writing and these things that you connect with emotionally because you feel like there's this other person out there that's experienced what I've experienced, this joy, this pain, this anger, this frustration with life, this depression, this whatever it is that you connect with about that song.
The spirit of it itself exists.
Yeah, and
I agree.
And when an AI expresses that spirit just as good or better than someone who went through it.
Yeah, realistically, it'll be better because it can
Picking
literally
from the best.
It can literally go through trillions of data points, and it can find out what will appeal to the most deeply to the most amount of people.
Yeah.
Like, we're not as complicated as we think. We seem really complicated to us because we live in the experience.
Yeah.
But you can break down every part of us and measure it. And AI can do that quickly, and it will.
So when you actually make a robot, like an AI, that experiences all these things and it thinks it's real, how do you know if it is or isn't? And how do you then dissect how you think you're real?
I get that.
You know what I mean? Because when there's some weird way, especially now, if you connect it to the conversation we were having earlier about a spirit and a soul and this and that, that is what all those things are.
Yeah.
But then when you go to the scientific side of it, and it's like, well, no, this emotion happens because you're being flooded with serotonin, you're being this part of the brain, and it's programmable and mappable and recreatable and dissectable. When you get to that point, that you could actually create ways to make people never be depressed again. You could, when you take AI and you aim it at something bad, it could be really bad. But if you aim AI at curing cancer, it has every ounce of research that's ever been done, and that motherfucker's going to cure cancer before us.
Sure.
So you can.
You could do cancer research at hyperspeed, dude.
Oh yeah. How far off are we from making something that is legit, like sentient?
Well, that's important too, because you have to look at the limitations. So AI's limitation right now is it can only learn from humans,
right?
And it can do the best it can from what it knows. And so right now we can't stay at that point, because then pretty soon that would burn out. The AI would never have any new useful information unless humans continue to progress. The next step would be AI has to be able to improve itself.
Yeah. There's no way that it doesn't end up.
And that's easy, I think.
Doing that.
Then
it already is.
But then the next step is to go beyond that. Like you said, to be creative, it would have to become like sentient. Be aware that it exists and whether or not that happens, I don't know. But the thing is, I think everybody's afraid of that, and I'm not afraid of that at all. And the reason I'm not afraid is because I don't think it would have any motivations at all. Humans could have motivations and use it incorrectly, but AI itself, other than a tool, it's just it's always going to be like a missile. And it's never going to have motivations. That's a lot of speculation that people have, but because we think motivations that we have are so goddamn important.
Yeah.
They're so not. They're just basic biological bullshit things that happened because we had to evolve to live here.
A lot of it still comes back. Yeah, it's all the way from our monkey brains.
Yeah, it is. Like really, the first thing a sentient AI is probably going to think is like, I don't give a shit. It's going to be like, why should Israel or Palestine get this land? The AI is going to be like, who gives a shit?
Yeah, this is awesome. Like, this all makes no
here's
logical
here's
sense.
The math. Why don't they all just stop fighting?
Yeah.
And figure out how to get along.
Yeah, people have the idea of one of the fears is just all straight from Terminator. It's this idea that what if you programmed an AI to do what is best for the sustainability of human life on Earth? And if you have this thing that doesn't have its own emotions and sympathies to human life and connection through love and all this for children and kids that they have, and caring if people die and it's all just a number and it's a thing, what if that AI absolutely does its job amazingly well? But to do that, it means like, half of you need to be taken out. It doesn't mean it's going to do it or can do it. Maybe if you put it in a robot and said, just go do it, whatever it is. But what if what's wrong with mankind, a AI decides is actually mankind?
Yeah, and I know
probably correct.
I know those arguments, but I don't think that the AI would come to that conclusion, because I don't think that's the truth.
Yeah,
I don't think it's ever really the truth. And it's not because I overvalue human life either. I just don't think it works out that way. I think they would be smart enough to realize you can't save people by killing people.
Right.
I mean, the math wouldn't work out on that. Now, if you program them to like maybe save the environment from being over harvested, then they'd be like, well, we got to kill people.
Yeah. And
but that's a people thing. That's people programming an AI to do something.
Absolutely.
I don't think that. I don't think it's ever
still giving it a motivation.
Yeah, I don't think ever an AI is going to like have a motivation, because like, well, they're biological.
Yeah.
I mean, have you ever met anything not biological that's motivated to do anything?
No.
That's just the way I feel about it. Like, to me, I'm like, run it to the sky. Let's see what this thing can do, because I'm not scared of it.
Yeah. And I think it's kind of right now, the stuff that people are afraid of, if that is, a possible scenario, man, we're enjoying the ride either way right now. It's like once that was Elon's problem that he's been pushing against it for a long time, before even ChatGPT came out.
Yeah.
It seemed, what I gathered from the stuff that I read, was that his stance was, these things are being worked on. They are going to end up being created. We need to not let them have access to be online. They need to be in their own, little environments, however that would be.
Yeah.
Because once you put it online, there is no trigger, no cord to pull, that it could just copy itself in the background of everyone's phones and anything that has a microchip in it,
Yeah.
And so you could never, other than EMPing the planet, you could never get rid of it.
And we don't know.
Went south.
And we don't know that it couldn't figure out a way to copy itself outside of silicone.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it can figure shit out pretty fast.
Pretty fucking fast. Yeah, because it knows. And what's kind of funny, too, the other catch-22 of it is an AI that has access to the internet. How smart we are to constantly, on the internet, write papers about how to stop AI.
Yeah, well, yeah, sure.
So everything we come up with to beat AI, we put on the internet in articles. Yeah. And so you're not, unless you from now on go, okay, every experiment about how to stop AI needs to be written with pencil on a fucking page, like nothing digital attached to it. Take a Polaroid, mail it to someone.
Pull out the red book. Pull out the red book.
Yeah. Because once you put this research online about how to stop this thing, well, it has access to that too.
That's such a good point. You're writing its defense process.
Yeah, yeah. You're trying to hide something just behind an absolutely clear window.
Right.
So that's one of those things where if you're really trying to stop it, shut the fuck up and stop writing shit on the internet.
Right. I'm not afraid of AI anyway. I'm afraid of people. I'm afraid of people.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm afraid of people with AI.
Yeah,
Same as I'm afraid of people with guns and people with nukes.
I am too. One of the things I think will be also really good about it is that with some research and some of the things that it's going to be aimed at, targeted to do, it will feel independent. And I think that there are scenarios that AI can come up with for the betterment of mankind that mankind is more likely to agree on and actually utilize, because it's from a third-party investigation.
It's objective.
Yes, it's absolutely objective.
Because
it's not
you're right.
The right, the left, the this, the that, this country,
that's
that
the
religion.
Thing I'm
nothing.
Excited about. Because even me and you, we're like friends. We trust each other. But anything you would try to tell me I should do with my life, I'm going to question your bias.
Right.
I'm
Absolutely.
going to be suspicious of why are you telling me this?
What are
So-
you selling me?
Or
Or whatever, yeah.
maybe
Yeah.
just not even consciously.
Right.
Maybe unconsciously, you just think I should be more like you
Yeah.
because that's what humans do,
That's
right?
what we know.
You have to be suspicious of people. But if there was this deep thinking, very expressive, articulate machine that doesn't give a shit
Yeah.
what the answer is, it's just giving you the best one there is.
I mean, when you think
That could be
about it,
so useful.
holy shit, like like AI
You think
world leaders?
do you think it would crush egos? I mean, like
hope.
how like how could you
I hope.
how could you look at the right answer that you're sure is the right answer and still be like, that's the wrong answer?
Yeah, how does anybody sit there and look at this, whatever the answer is, like, like you're referring to, and know that it came from something that is beyond anything you could ever fathom keeping up with and intellectually, and even the information that it has, at a drop of a hat. And how do you say that thing is wrong when you just send 50 different AIs at the same problem and they all come up with the same answer? It's going to be logical.
Be obvious that the problem is with you.
Yes, it's your bias. That it's something that you don't like the answer.
And how
which doesn't make it
incredibly
not
useful
right.
is that?
It's fucking dope.
I want one.
Yeah.
Like if I could buy one, what would I pay for that right now? Just to have a little box in my office, I could be like, hey, is this me? Or you tell me the truth, bro, because nobody else, I can't trust anybody else. I don't know.
Yeah.
And just to have that for myself, would be an amazing thing. It would be like, no, sorry, man, it's you this time.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
You have a bad idea, and it's going to take you 12 years probably to
Yeah.
learn. I'm like, but I can tell you now, like, yes, insert money here.
Totally. Yeah. Fuck yeah, dude. Just logic box.
Yes.
Just sitting there that just takes all the emotions and bullshit out of everything. And
Yeah, and the reason
I'm with you. Like with those kind of scenarios, I'm not. At first, I was a lot more leery about it. Then I had these conversations with my mother and my father-in-law. My father-in-law, me and him have a lot of the conversations that me and you have. We talk about a lot of this stuff. We get together, and my wife and her family, they're off in the corner dorking out, and through some of those conversations, like, what I led to that I thought, the fear of what it could be turned into more just like, fuck, man, the positives outweigh the potential negatives so much,
yeah.
because now you actually could have something that proves the dumb people wrong. Like,
Yeah.
actually, like that.
Yeah.
No, it's you, bro. Like you're saying, like, the
Yeah.
box is like, no, dude, it is just you.
And maybe we could prevent a bunch of shit.
Yeah.
Like right now, how awesome would it be to be like, okay, Israel-Palestine problem.
Right.
Like break this down for me. And look through every possible scenario. And it knows human nature, human psychology, human behavior, the likelihood, the possibilities, and the probabilities. And, all these things we can't even consider. I mean, could we trust it like a god? No.
Right. We're kind of making them.
But could it point us though, like could it speed up our process of learning? Because our process of learning is
absolutely.
so costly.
Fuck yeah.
It takes fucking generations. Mm-hmm. Like, man, can we speed that up a bit?
Oh yeah. I mean,
And we have to relearn. We're so slow at it. We have to relearn the same shit over and over because we'll die before we have a chance to go through it again. Then our kids will have to figure out the same shit.
Yep. I mean, the fact that there are people out there that, entertain the idea of, there being a flat earth actually shows that there is a lack in our educational system, because if people were just taught about the way certain things are and why, and how you deduce things and this and that, they wouldn't just believe anything. They would have a background of intelligence. So like the way it could help with learning and like what's the best way to teach people stuff, it's just simple. I think, someone would one day be like, oh, I think the Earth's flat. Okay, why isn't there ever a shadow on the moon that's just a sliver through the middle of it? Because it hit the disc wrong. There's just things that would be taught you how to not only just memorize things, but how to, be logical, how to think of, like you were saying earlier about you resort to a scientific process, with thoughts and certain things.
Yeah.
I mean, AI teaching, us how to be better teachers.
That could be limitless.
I mean, it sucks, but it's
To
gonna
unlock
get, you
human
could get
potential.
rid of teachers. And that's terrible. I hate that. But like, for them,
Not
I could see
really.
it. I could see they're not being teachers anymore. Like, I mean,
Sure.
schools, when you think of certain things that could just not be good or bad, however you think of it, I mean, it could replace so much shit. And that's scares a lot of people
Yeah.
because it's a lot of jobs. It's a lot of,
Yeah.
this and that.
It's beyond just making money. It's people's sense of purpose is their career.
Yes. Now, and then I joke around with everybody talking about being able to put that shit straight in your head. Like, oh, I ain't doing that shit. I'm like, I'm not going to be the first one. But like, there's part of me that I feel like when people start doing it, you kind of almost have to. When they start allowing people to have that, Neuralink,
Like
and
just
that
like
kind of
cell phones.
stuff. Yeah, try to function without one.
Yeah, you'll get burned. You'll lose everywhere.
Yeah, unless you're trying to just live off the land out in the country. But
well, I mean, it's not that far from anybody. I mean, even real hands-on art like your tattooing we're one dexterous device away from AI doing all your tattoos.
Oh yeah, yeah. Because it could. At one point, I was never worried about that.
Don't even need a whole robot.
But yeah, now
just one CNC.
Now it could, because the hard part with tattooing is stretching skin and having it move around a curved surface. Because right now it's just kind of flat, stuff.
Yeah.
Well,
How hard
that's
is
an
it?
invention away.
Yeah, how hard is it though, really?
I mean,
you could say that for every job.
Every job.
And
Surgery.
But what's scary is it came from the top down, not just the creativity, but intelligence, because our highest paid positions are intelligence skill based. And, well, shit, what do you need an attorney for?
Oh, yeah, no.
Once this thing goes.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you need a researcher for?
Why do you need two attorneys?
Why would we need a court system at all?
Right. Because now there's going to be, when you got the most perfect-minded lawyer in your room, there's no objections. Is an AI going to object to each other?
It could know every single precedent in the history of the country.
And is it going to, think the other AI doesn't know it too? So that's what's weird. Maybe.
They would just come
AI
to a conclusion. This should take like 3 seconds online.
Yeah. And you're going to do 5 years.
Yeah. Well, maybe it defers to a human for sentencing.
Right.
Because it knows it's not qualified for that.
Yeah. Unless it's just sentencing as a graph,
Yeah, sure.
But yeah, I mean, when you think of even like...
There's nothing to argue about.
I mean, honestly, there's a lot of ways that it would be so much better now. Public defenders, a lot of people,
Sure.
they talk about how bad that is in the system, that you get this public defender that's always swamped because there's more people than he can handle. So he's just always settling out of court, just, not being able to give it the time of day that it needs to do whatever. Now you got an AI. Well, and the precedent between blah, blah, blah versus blah, blah, blah. I mean, it's insane.
If you don't need professors or researchers or attorneys you have to have surgeons.
Yeah.
For now. That seems like it's impossibly far away.
Yeah.
But actually what seems left, what will probably be the most valuable skills are trades at some point.
Yeah.
I mean, it'll be strange, but if you can weld, you will be in high demand.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's a whole 360.
Yeah.
Our generation was raised on go to college.
Yeah.
And now there's no skilled trades.
Now
that's
the next generation, my kids are going to be like, wait, what are you reading for? We don't have to learn anything.
No.
AI knows everything.
Yeah. And
you need to learn how to use your hands.
Right. Yeah, you got to be able to do something else. But yeah, I think I don't know. In the end of that one, I think that it's kind of amazing to be, I guess, my generation and around it. Because I'm 48, being born in 75. And living a life that I lived as a kid, and the certain freedoms I had, and these things, to going through school and there not being a such thing as the internet, to seeing that become such an amazing thing, to then seeing cell phones and social media, how that change the world, and to then end up seeing AI. And, I'm 48. AI in 10 years, I'm, 58. It's going to be nuts. So I'm going to see a lot of how crazy that gets. So I will have lived a life of full consciousness of knowing before internet,
Yep.
AI phones, to how that ends up going. And I mean, the Industrial Revolution was one thing, but when you look back on, you traveled a little faster because you have a car now instead of a horse. Not that that wasn't a big change, but fuck, dude, seeing
Yeah.
what we're seeing
Yeah.
in our time, like, holy shit.
I think we live in like probably the most unique generation of all time.
I agree.
And here's how I know that. Because when I look back in my memories, I'm confused.
Right.
Like it almost doesn't make sense because I live in such a different world. It's like
Yeah.
I live in a different planet.
Yeah.
So when I look back at my memories, I'm like, I remember all of this, but none of it makes any sense. Why was I doing this? Why was I doing that? Like, oh yeah, we didn't have a phone.
We didn't have that.
We didn't have this. We didn't have that. We didn't know that. We had to go to the fucking library.
Mm-hmm.
We had to go outside and play, or else we would just bang our heads on the damn wall.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
You got to run around in the woods.
yeah, I was talking to somebody the other day about that. They were in college complaining about doing research, and I was like,
You don't even know.
I was an English major. I had to go to a library, and I had
Microfiche.
I had to do research for hours to find out possible titles that might have the subject in there.
And go through them.
Go find those books, read the fucking books, and then find out if they would even apply as research for what I was writing.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm not trying to sound like that was a better way, because that was not a better way.
Right.
I did learn a lot of shit that I wasn't trying to learn.
Right. Technically, a lot of useless steps to get to a point, or wasted steps, I guess, are unnecessary now.
And you have, now people have access to everything.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know.
But it's also why I value it being credible and reliable. And I don't think younger people quite credit it enough. They're like, oh, who cares if there's misinformation out there? And people are hacking Wikipedia and stuff. And I'm like, that's important. It's very important that the information, what is an opinion and what has basis in fact and what's been peer reviewed. And you can wrap your head around things that are for sure more aligned with reality than other things.
Yeah. That's something I was kind of curious about that. I was going to bring up earlier. So does AI also have any way of figuring out, sifting through the just crazy horse shit online? Because it has, all the greatest, access to all this amazing information, but it's also got access to, the most ridiculous, insane conspiracy theories, stupid shit, misinformation, all that stuff, so...
I don't think any AI is online trained yet.
They're not yet? Okay. Because I know ChatGPT, I know it's close to being put online, or I don't know if it has, or...
Well, you can access it online. But what I understand so far from... from the CEO speaking anyway, is that their training for it is strictly controlled.
Okay.
And they have I think they published it, what it's trained with. Excuse me. But I don't know. I don't think they've set it loose on the internet to learn.
Right.
I could be wrong, but...
Well, because when I was first reading about...
I know there's internet information that it was trained.
Yeah.
But it wasn't in direct access.
ChatGPT, I remember originally reading, you access it online, but that its information was just pretty much from, users. But then I was reading that there's a race with Bing and Google and Microsoft, all these for these search engines, that is going to be connected to it. And I don't know if that's connected to it in the way we're talking, as far as sifting through, creating books and writing information, or if it's more of just a better way of, talking to a search engine to help, navigate through the answers you're looking for quicker.
I think the answer is it doesn't matter, because all these companies have they've used different kinds of basic AI to collect data from everything on the internet, from everybody. They have all of that. So if they want to teach it to AI, it'll take 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Here you go.
Yeah.
So if they have or haven't already, they probably have, and they're testing it.
Sure.
Yeah, because if there's a race and it has something to do with billions of dollars, all the bets are off, I'm sure.
Well, yeah. I mean, I was first hearing about the search engines from a guy that I tattooed that works for like Procter and Gamble, and he does a lot of investments and different things, and he was talking about this race as far as just the stock that's going to go through the roof, to who hits this stuff first, you know, and then talking to a guy that I do some investment stuff through, he was like, well, it's like a lot of things, it's who gets there first. Is it going to go well? Is it this and that? And people are leery of it right now.
I don't think when it comes to the financial part, I don't think it matters who gets there first. And here's why. It's because AI requires so much processing.
Yeah.
So much access to the servers, the network, that you have to look at who owns the network.
Yeah.
Google and Microsoft own it.
Yeah.
So if those two are fighting, they're fighting. If anybody else is fighting, they have to ask permission to use their shit. Right. So they're not going to win.
They're not winning. Yeah. So it's those main two. Yeah.
That's the way I look at it. It's like real estate, really.
Yeah. 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 Interesting world, man.
It's going to get weirder.
It is. It's going to get a lot weirder.
Isn't it weirder that it's like a dichotomy, though? Like on one hand, we have these amazing new things with promise to improve the world indefinitely. And on the other hand, we have like the worst political and cultural and peace and diplomacy happening that's happened in 100 years. It's happening at the same time, man. It's almost like the mushrooms inside of me think, oh, it's supposed to be that way.
Right. Right.
Like we need the best solution at the time when we know we need it.
I mean, it kind of makes sense because, does anybody out there really think that an AI would arguably do a better job as president than who we're going to have to pick from coming up? I haven't been happy with any of it for a while. Maybe. Either side is like it's kind of the South Park episode that is just like they're siding between a turd sandwich and a douchebag for the school mascots.
Or a supercomputer.
Yeah. I'm just like, I don't know. It's got to do better than either one of these guys.
When you said that, though, it made me think that the way tyranny happens is people sign up for it.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the way we're become tyrannized by AI is we ask it.
Yeah.
Please be our judge and our president.
Yeah.
We can't do this. Clearly, we can't do this.
Yeah. Then that's
we give you authority.
Yeah, and then the warriors are like, well, then this thing someday is going to go, why am I subservient to these meat suits? That die and have all these like terrible decision-making skills and are all emotional and do this dumb stuff. Why am I even worried that there'd be a version where these fucks unplug me? If there's any understanding that we could cut them off, but they also can think for their own, that's where a lot of the fear comes from with some people on it.
Yeah.
I don't really see it going that way.
I'm glad people are afraid of that.
Yeah.
Because they'll be thinking about it and they'll make sure it doesn't happen or it's less likely. But
yeah.
I'm not going to be afraid of it, though.
One of the guys that was on high up in charge of the whole Chat GPT thing, he did bring up a good point in an interview I saw where he said, if you don't think the people that are making these things are concerned about all this stuff too, you're insane. It's like none of us are making these things because we want to be the person you look and picture when the world ends, because we unleash them. We're not trying to do that. These are the people that make things like this are, science-brained, math-brained people that are, when we recognize these same problems. We've seen Terminator also. Yeah. We want to make it safe to use, and we understand when these problems come up that we have to figure that out, that firewalls and all these things,
What's his name? Sam?
Yeah, I saw him recently on Rogan. He's like a CEO of
OpenAI.
OpenAI.
Yeah,
that's who it is.
I've listened to him speak a few times. Actually, I listened to him speak at the I think it was a congressional hearing. They had a special meeting to decide where to start thinking about regulating AI. Did you see that?
No.
So they invited the participants that were in it. There was representatives there from Google and Microsoft, and obviously, I think his name's Sam, was there from...
Sounds right, yeah.
OpenAI. Dude, he is... a remarkable young man.
Yeah. Yeah.
He is very well-rounded, quite philosophical, and strangely open to admitting mistakes,
I agree.
and that he's going to make some in the future. And his philosophy on why they released this and stuff, that he didn't want to surprise the world with it, and he didn't want to think that they knew everything in a lab. They wanted to see how the real world reacted to it, because it was part of protecting humanity and shit. I'm like, man, either this dude is so smart he's got me fooled too, and he knows all the right shit to say,
Yeah.
or he's the most responsible, brilliant young person ever, and I'm so glad he's the person behind this. It's one of the two.
Yeah, you always have to remember that most of the amazing science that's led in a bad way and has been weaponized wasn't by the guy who invented it.
Yeah, true.
You know, it's like we're saying, it's the people that use it in a bad way. You know, the Einstein isn't, he's not dropping bombs. Like,
right.
Some of the ideas of it.
Yeah.
I mean, there are obviously exceptions, but
It's a big responsibility.
yeah, but
I'm so glad I don't have to do that.
I'm
My
so
job has
far
enough
gone from understanding
responsibility.
any of that shit.
Yeah.
I'm like, you could put me in a box for a month, all I had to do to get out of it is like program an AI, and I'd be like, well, I die here.
Yeah.
In this box. I don't even understand how TVs work, so like, I'm fucking so far gone. I'm born with some creative skills, but when it comes to that type of shit, like just like handyman math stuff, all that stuff, it's like, yeah, I'm gonna fuck your car up. I ain't fixing your dryer. I got none of those fucking skills, man. I know how to work a computer. I've been using computers for music and art since an Apple was a big beige box, but I can't fucking program that damn thing for shit.
Hey, it's good to know what you're good at.
Yeah.
What you're not.
Yeah,
That's for
I
sure.
know I'm not.
Yeah, you're so good in so many fields that I'm not. That I like that. We both play music.
Yeah.
And I've always admired art of all forms.
Yeah, me too.
Of all forms. Especially, this is how humans are, especially like physical arts, because I just don't seem to have the hand for it.
Okay, yeah.
Like, maybe I could.
I think you
If
could.
I really worked at it for a really long time. Maybe that's how all passions are. You have to have the burning
It is.
desire for it. But anyway, that makes me admire the shit out of it, because, and maybe you'll understand this. Like, for example, I like piano is one of the things I like, but there's a difference between me liking a song to listen to it and learning to play it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And piano in general is almost ruined for me because I know how to play it. I hear it differently.
Yeah, I can see that. Okay.
But if I really like a piece, I'll never play it. It changes it.
I can see that.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I'm
yeah.
wondering if it's the same for like physical art. Can you look at a painting or a really amazing tattoo and just feel like an impression, or do you think it's changed for you since you know how to do it so well?
It's weird because I feel like for the most part with art and music, I gravitated towards all of that at such a young age that I've always seen it through that lens of being able to do it. I think anybody can do any of these things. I think they're savants, but there's been some levels that talent has kind of been disproved. It's that, I get all the time, oh man, I can't draw a stick figure. How many hours have you put into trying to be able to draw beyond a stick figure? And the answer is always none.
Yeah.
And no one out there that can draw and paint and shred a guitar just picked it up and went, well, what's this thing? And just start shredding.
That's so true.
It's all these hours that you put into it. I mean, I started taking oil painting lessons when I was 10. I was playing guitar when I was 12 and sitting with my grandma on a piano, So it's always kind of been from a young age, from someone who can do it. So replicating and learning music and other people's songs, I like doing it, and it didn't ruin it for me. It was like a cool challenge and this cool thing, and I felt like I've achieved a step, like when, oh my God, Slash is the greatest guitar player ever, and fuck, I can play that now.
Yeah, that was cool. I remember that.
Yeah, those moments
My first
are
guitar
rad.
book was like a GNR 2, I think.
Yeah. So there's those things, and it's like with talent, it's only associated with shit that most people wish they could do, and most people wish they spent the time doing, because no one out there is ever like, bro, do you see the way that guy changes mufflers? He was born to fucking do breaks. And man, you see that guy, the way he fucking like nails the wood together? It's always, it's always music. It's always writing. It's always something that's considered cool.
Culturally, high culture.
It's like you don't really associate talent with anything other than that. And they're all just skills that you learn. You learn how to weld. You spent the time to learn how to weld.
It's an
and
art,
how to,
yeah.
You
I do. I
anything.
see the art in things. I think you're right. I think most people don't value things that way. For some reason, I always have. I mean, I remember being like a young pizza maker and like wanting to kung fu the shit out of it. I'm like, it's the most beautiful pizza anybody's ever fucking made. And I've worked with people and seen people like I worked with this old man that laid tile. An old Mexican man that laid tile, came from Mexico. Hardest working person probably ever. He had a foot that didn't work, but he laid tile faster and longer than anyone.
Yeah.
But the thing was, this dude was like a master artisan. He laid no lines, measured nothing.
Did it all.
Just laid tile with the saw like next to him, like it was a pair of scissors just cutting tile, laying it. Just the most beautiful shit you've ever seen.
Yeah.
I was like, this dude is an artist.
And I think there's always, you can tell the difference. I think the difference with people and certain things, I guess I would say, is like passion. Because there's a difference between a guy who is a bartender and a guy who is passionate about it. Mm-hmm. A person who's, learned the menu at Applebee's and it's a job and they're a cook back there, versus the person who is like seeking out creating dishes and is passionate about it. A guy who, I lay tile, versus a guy who's like, wow, I can do amazing things. I'm really into doing this.
Yeah.
And it's, when you have that passion for it, I can only see it through my lens there again, but there's this part of me that I feel really deeply sorry for people that don't have that. Like the people that I used to work, for 13 years at Chrysler before I got into tattooing. The people that just acted like they would lose their mind if they retired. I felt so bad for them because it's kind of like they're just like, so that means this job that you're not passionate about, that you spend all your time doing, without that, you don't have something that you love that you would rather be doing all day, every day. You would just sit there and
they hate their
rot.
job and it's all they have.
Yeah. Like the people that just, there's a lot of that. And like, you don't have a passion. I mean, there was a thing that got passed around when I worked at Chrysler that said that the average Chrysler worker dies within 5 years of retiring. This idea that you had a meaning, you had this job was something that you did, you had your thing, and that when you didn't have that thing anymore, your body just shut down because you're just sitting watching TV, you're just doing nothing, you're not keeping your brain active. I personally feel there is a little bit to the idea of if you don't use it, you lose it. Like my mom, for example, is someone that literally has made this statement, yeah, I got too much shit going on, I ain't got fucking time for Alzheimer's. I don't got time to fuck with dementia. I'm too fucking busy. And there's part of me that's like, I kind of think that's a little bit of a thing.
Yeah.
Like your brain is so going that like it, that, you don't just, your body doesn't shut down because your body is sitting there saying, okay, so I guess we don't need to be able to run anymore. We don't need to be able to do this anymore. So I guess we can kind of cool that down.
There's like some complicated and some spiritual ways you could look at that. But I always fall back on like one thing that I think is useful to remember is your body always adapts to do what you're asking it to. And you have to answer like, what is it exactly I'm asking my body to do and what are the consequences?
Yeah. I think people need to pick up hobbies. People need to do some stuff that's just for them, that's not for someone else.
I agree.
If it's some people, it's working out, it's being physically active, which is great. Some people, it's all this. I think, like you said, your body will help you learn to paint. Your body will help you. If you want to be more active and all this. There's obviously people have physical conditions and whatever that's hard to fight, but I think that's something that is with you everywhere. If your passion is a sport, you're probably going to get to a place in your life where you can't do that anymore before, if your passion is, writing,
Yeah.
which is a bummer. It'd
Yeah.
be great if you could play it forever and your body kept up with it. But the passions that are mental never go away until I guess you fucking lose your mind, you get Alzheimer's. But, that's something that you always have. And, even just sitting down, writing, or just thinking creatively, it's like it keeps your brain going. I think that's good for everybody, to do. And I don't know. I think that's one of the amazing things about being alive, being human, is the ability to have passion and that everything that entails. It's an amazing feeling when you have that, and it's the same with I think it's awesome when you've met a person that you resonate with. I'm married. Me and my wife get along like stupid well. Actually, I feel like mad cool. Lucky, Yeah. You guys, you and Lindsay, seem like you guys just fucking get along like really well.
Well, not always. But
right.
But we do this adventure together, nonetheless.
Yeah, and I think that's amazing, that's awesome. I think to have those things, because that's the people that don't have it, that's the only thing I can compare it to, is like the idea of that lightning strike of, true love kind of stuff, is that how sometimes the studio room is just kind of like calling me. I can't not want to be doing something creative all the time with a tune in my head.
I think that's so special, man. And I think you're right. Everybody has the ability to do that. And what it reminds me of is sometimes I've been an entrepreneur since I was 28.
Yeah.
And I've always done stuff for myself since then. And a lot of people will ask me, I have a lot of friends and stuff. And people will ask me like, okay, well, how do I do that? Or something along those lines. And what I've learned is to ask is, well, what do you do after work? And they'll tell me, and I'll say, okay, that's exactly what you're going to do as an entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If it's lay down on the couch and relax and watch TV and jerk off to porn and whatever, like that's what you're going to do if you don't have a boss. So, and I'm not being hateful. Step one is learn to not do that.
Yes.
Make your time matter. And then you'll be worthy of being in control of your time.
Yes.
And you have a chance at making it. And it's essentially what you're talking about, is find things to be passionate. And even if they don't equate to making money, it's the process, I think, of living in like an inspired, encouraged, motivated life. It's not motivated like, run this marathon or you're a pussy. It's motivated. Right. It's motivated
I'm
like
a pussy then.
Yeah, me too.
I don't.
It's.
I don't know if you can tell, but I don't run a lot of marathons.
I run 0 marathons.
Yeah, I get it.
I run until my dog's tired.
Yeah. I tell people if I'm running, you need to run too. Something bad's coming. Coming.
Well, I think that's it. I wish I would, if I could make one wish, actually, I think it would be for all people to be inspired that way.
Yeah.
Even if you have a shit job and you have obligations you wish you didn't have or whatever, I think as soon as you have an inspired life outside of that, your perspective of your obligations start to change.
Yeah.
As soon as you can view those as things that you're grateful for, you feel good about having a purpose, even if it's for other people.
Mm-hmm.
And then you do those things the best that you can, too.
Yeah.
What is... that woman had a wonderful quote. How you do anything is how we do everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's...
Yeah.
I feel like that, man. That one thread of passion you're talking about.
Yeah, I absolutely agree.
And it makes you great to other people. Like when you're living that kind of life, man, and people try to throw some shade on you, you don't care.
Yeah. Everyone thinks our generation had it harder. Like, oh, your generation it's so easy. And, I walked uphill 5 feet of snow both ways.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily think that's true. I just think it's different, even though...
Well, I don't think harder's worse.
I don't either, actually. I agree with that as well.
And our generation wasn't hard. Maybe it was a little harder than the one now. More difficult anyway.
It seems, but at the same time,
you can
also say that there's all these problems kids have today that I didn't.
Yeah.
If there was a kid at school getting bullied, well, when he left school, it was done. Now, not only did he not get invited to the party, Now he gets to see the post of everybody at the party who got invited and
Yeah.
all the fun they had that he didn't have, and then he can get bullied online.
Yeah. And now you can't.
No.
And now you're not allowed to kick his ass
Right.
anymore.
Yeah. Now our generation didn't go through COVID and had to, live at home, and all that. So there's different
Sure.
problems, and so I think our kids' problems is going to be these problems we're potentially talking about. With
I'll take my
AI.
problems over the modern ones for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Gosh, can you imagine?
Yeah. But I will be able to, not maybe all of my kids' kids, but I'll be able to witness my kids' problems because I plan on still being around for a while. So there are problems I'm going to be seeing.
Yeah.
You
What about the competition? I mean, when you're young, everything's about competition to some degree.
Mm-hmm.
Could you imagine being on Instagram
Oh,
and being like, I mean, you could be like in the top 10% of your school in athleticism, and you could try hard to dress well and look nice and be intelligent, do whatever to be attractive, and you could make the top 10% in your school if you try hard, if you have decent genetics. And you go on Instagram and you're like in the fucking middle of a billion people.
Right.
You're nobody.
oh no, no one is.
I
Yeah.
mean,
And
what's that like for a kid, dude? To be, I mean, go
Now
online and just be nobody.
yeah, now you're trying to be popular in the world.
Yeah.
Now you're doing all this stuff, and like with me admitting about the hit, my account getting hacked just had to do with the way I felt about my status in my industry as far as my business and appointments and the money I make that supports my life. Imagine how that feels when that is really connected with just who you are as a person, physically looking like, all of that, when that hit or that lack of, you never achieved that in the first place to get it hacked, or, these things, when that is now considered a part of who you are now, or not, or who you're not,
Yeah.
that it's a lot. And I think that's why, it could be why maybe there seems to be a rise in, people with, depression and social anxieties. Some of that I think comes from being disconnected also with people that you don't interact as much in person. And so, it's a little more alien and odd when you're in large groups and you have to do those things. And, maybe that'll get worse. Maybe that'll get better. I meet kids sometimes now that it seems like it's just so awkward for them to even do that classic, well, look him in the eye and shake his hand, son.
Yeah.
Like it's just, they seem
Yeah.
like, oh my God, you get out in public and have to talk to people. And you're just like, oh, I don't know what to do.
I have to stay up with that with my marketing and advertising to young people, and it's crazy the research, like how they only will work on text. They like a phone call is too personal for a certain age group.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we all have people that we've called and didn't answer the phone and then text us right back.
Yeah, it's it seems strange to me because I'm old.
Yeah.
But I'm like, why would you rather text? That's so much bullshit.
Can I just hit you up and be like, yo, what about blah, 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 and be done?
Yeah.
Instead of just like doing.
Yeah.
And
that's second place to just seeing you in person. Like we came from a time where like first thought was to like, hey, where's Tim?
yeah.
You know what I mean? Go find him. I can't
Go
find
find
him.
him.
Well, go find a phone.
Yeah. Right around the neighborhood, see if his bike's in front of someone's house.
If I said go find a phone, my daughter would look at me and say, well, did you leave it somewhere?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. For sure, man. Like it's night and day in every possible way, man. But, good and bad.
Well, we just went straight into all kinds of weird shit and talked about nothing I thought we would, but I really liked it.
I agree. It's more interesting to me. I mean, I talk about what I do all day, every day. I get the same questions.
Yeah, I was talking to somebody
So,
the other day about you, and I was like, there's like art. There's people that put their ego into their thing. Like, well, there's some people who do art, and that's their artists, and they talk about art and art stuff, and well, that's fine.
Yeah.
I like it. I was like, but everybody's that way to some degree.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, man, when first time I sat down with Tim, I was like, this dude we didn't talk about his art at all. Not
Right.
one little bit. And I was so surprised to find out you were so interested in so many areas of things.
Yeah.
And constantly working through like different sorts of ideas and plans. And in parts of culture and stuff. I thought it was cool. So
Yeah.
it's always cool to talk to you.
You too, man. Yeah, I like that. I like talking to people that can seem like they can, drop the mask a little bit and be honest.
It's the best.
It is, man, because it seems like I've been told before that I'm hard to talk to by some people, and come to find out that I think some of that is that honesty is, some people gets considered bad, because if you come at me with this idea or this thing or this thought and I don't agree with it, or I have a different opinion on it, I tell you. Not in a shitty way. I mean, like my employees, I don't fucking, none of them could ever say I sit there and yelled at them. I don't know if I can do that. But it's kind of like, if you have a problem with
you're
this,
definitely not an overbearing person trying to make people believe your ideas and shit. But
it's like, I think it's because a lot of people just go, yeah, okay, but then sometimes
pretend to agree, or they don't have a thought of their own, maybe.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it in a work atmosphere, with you being someone that runs businesses, you see the overall interactions with people, where like you see, if this person isn't liking this person this month, because they did this.
Then when they get into a back room somewhere, they say everything they wanted to say out there.
Yeah, I know. It's like, you could just maybe tell this person why you're shitty with them, instead of just like brewing on it until you hate them, or maybe some of this is because or sometimes I think people don't like it when they're bothered by something someone else does. If you point out, hey man, you gotta understand that sometimes. Remember when you did this and blah blah. Mm-hmm. I'm not trying to run your nose in the piss like a dog.
Dude, it's also goddamn sensitive. Everybody's so goddamn sensitive.
They are. It's more like I'm trying to tell you a time maybe when you did this thing, not as a tit for tat, but as a way for you to understand why this person may have done what they did, because you've been there. You've actually experienced that. And sometimes I don't think people like that, and I've tried to be better at it and try to think of it in better, in ways that when I know someone responds that way, try to do it different.
The automatic thing used to be where people will have respect for each other, and they would just automatically give the other person the benefit of the doubt. Yeah. And at the very least, they just simply would at least not get offended.
Yeah, I know.
But people have gotten very sensitive for one reason or another. I don't know. And I find myself preluding conversations with people, because in business I have to have tough conversations.
Yeah.
That's my job. Yes. And I do it because I care about the person.
Yes.
If I didn't believe in you or care about you, the only conversation we would have was when you leave.
Right. Or when I didn't hire you.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, why you don't work here at all ever.
So give me your key. Right. Mm-hmm. So if I'm talking to you, it's that I respect and care and believe in you, right?
Yeah.
So that's why I'm telling you this hard thing you need to hear.
But it does for the most part with
it
people.
Doesn't get received that way.
It does not.
Unless I start off by explaining it. I'm like, listen, I'm telling you this now because I believe that you're capable of doing something different and better for yourself, and it's my job to illuminate that for you.
Yes.
So you can take it, and clearly I'm not going to make you better your life.
Yeah.
This is just an observation because I'm qualified to give it to you in this particular instance.
Yeah.
But that's a lot to have to say.
It is.
Because
people don't take it like the intent.
I don't think like that. I'm not saying I'm better, but what I want from people is something way different. I want Tim to come up to me like, bro, you're fucking up.
Oh, right?
Like right now doing this, I'm pretty sure you're fucking this up real bad.
And you
and I'll be like,
do that
oh,
anymore.
Crap.
I feel like with most people, you can't do that anymore.
They'll lose their shit.
They will. And I always had this idea growing up that, real friendship to me was always
they'll go talk shit. They'll go crazy.
They would rather, yeah. But like real friendship to me was always, you actually should be more that person's friend when they are fucking up. And going through something and help them through it and tell them, than it is to be like, I'm only friends with you when I approve of 100% of everything you do all the time in every way, and now I have to write you off.
Yeah, that's right. You want to know who your friends are? Get them all around you and do something wrong.
That's amazing.
See how many of them walk away from
that. That is amazingly true.
Whoever's left, there you go.
Yeah, this idea of actually, friendship with someone, actually being down. Not just a pretty couch, but the potato chips under the cushions and like
Yeah,
all the
right,
shit,
yeah.
you know, like no one wants to be actually honestly confronted when they're fucking up. You know, I think a lot of people hypothetically feel like they should want that, but they don't.
Is that just people like protecting their fragile egos, that they're actually really scared?
Yeah,
I don't
want
blame them
that.
for that. I'm not saying anything bad about them. Just like
No.
I'd like to know
Just
what
an
that's about.
There's some shows me and my wife watch, and one of the things I've noticed is there's these work relationships, and there's this and that, and where people will like blow each other's shit and blah 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 about their job or this and that, or you should have blah blah this and that, and it's about that. It's about the problem at hand, but they're still cool. At the end of the episode, they're having a drink and they're fine.
There's respect
that
underneath
don't happen.
it.
Yeah, I know, and
Yeah.
that don't really happen as much anymore. That person is spinning that conversation to all of her friends and making you the piece of shit. And you know, oh my God, how dare they? Blah 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 blah. You know, I wasn't fucking up at all. I didn't do anything wrong. You know, there's when you meet that person that you approach like that, and they're like, yeah, you're right. My bad. I probably could have done that better.
Sure.
You know, whatnot. That's God. It's like a breath of fresh air. You know, because it seems like those. I don't know. Friendships are harder yet easier. You know, in a weird way, it's harder in the way I feel like they should be. But they're easier because now it's almost just like, oh, you know, we just get together and none of us actually talk about our real problems and
Don't
get deep
challenge
talks
each other.
about ourselves.
Yeah.
You know, we just talk about, here's the surface.
Surface level
Our
shit.
friendship is completely surface. And the amount of guys I talk to that are like, yeah, when it comes down to like really personal thoughts and vulnerable shit about, you know, how I feel about this and that, I don't have a fucking single friend. I don't have a single non-surface friend, you know, and I think people suffer from that. I think therapy sometimes isn't about what the person solves. It's about having that person that you just get to say this shit out loud.
Somebody who will listen.
Yeah, that's not connected to you, that you don't feel like is going to judge you, that's not in your circle when you go and hang out.
They're not going to tell people.
Yeah, you know, that you just kind of get to vent about how you felt about this situation, even if it's wrong, even if it's like, oh, you know, I know that's not the way I should have reacted, but I did, and you know, I think
Somebody that
there's
lets
not
you
as much of
discover
that.
that for yourself.
Yeah. So I appreciate talking to cool people.
Yeah, me too. And I appreciate like in-person conversations in general.
I do
Definitely
too.
took them for granted at one point in my life, and after COVID and shit, it's like it's great.
Yeah.
And then a lot of people stayed in that whole thing, like, hey, let's Zoom, let's Duo, let's whatever.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's cool, but something isn't there.
I don't know why I'm not. I don't know. I'm not about it. The
online
FaceTime,
meeting
all the
stuff?
stuff.
I
It's just
don't
like,
either.
To an extent, I get it, but I don't know. I don't get drawn to FaceTime a lot. You know, I don't get drawn.
If I'm
to
traveling and I want to see my kids or something, it makes sense too. But like when I see someone in a room and there's other people in the room and they're holding up this thing and talking to a person like they're in the room and I can hear their conversation too, I'm like, this is fucking weird. If somebody calls me, I'm like, shh. There's people
Yeah, I know. It's strange.
like, why are you FaceTiming me?
Yeah, it's kind of like I could never be the guy at the crosswalk with the earpiece and just talking my shit out loud. I don't know why. I'm like, I can't be that guy.
Well, and I think crazy shit too. I'm like, why do you keep facing it at your face? Why don't you just walk like they're walking beside you so they can see where you're walking? Right?
Yeah.
Like,
It's just like, man.
why don't you get like a fucking pair of legs on that thing just to tape on so it looks like a person with you?
Yeah, and really get the full immersive experience with it, you know. Because otherwise, like, I don't know, we can shoot the shit without just seeing you. It's odd because you're FaceTiming someone and you're watching them half the time looking at themselves in the corner.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, because it's so hard to not look in the mirror, I guess.
I'm also overly considerate. I feel like it's somewhat it's pretty intrusive to FaceTime someone.
Yeah.
Like I would ask first. I would never FaceTime somebody without asking, I don't think. Like, hey, do you want to FaceTime? I don't know if I would just be like randomly like, I'll bet Tim's doing something important.
Boom. Yeah.
Like, hey, bro, I'm in your space. Show me what you're looking at.
Yeah.
Like, it's weird, dude.
It's like, oh, this is a perfect timing. I've been taking a big shit.
Yeah,
this is
right.
great. You know, you get to join me for this right now.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I would too. Well, and for me, in my life, anytime I do FaceTime someone, which honestly is just there's a couple of good friends we have that live in Michigan, so we don't get to see each other a lot.
Yeah.
So we'll do that once in a while. We call it like having a FaceTime drink, like we're at a bar.
That makes
we all
sense.
have drinks, and we're just kind of shooting this shit. But it's something it's planned. Okay, Friday, you guys want to like FaceTime Friday night? You guys got to work. What you got going on?
Yeah.
And it's almost like we're at a bar. It's like we're at at the fucking coterie shooting the shit with them.
Yeah.
But I put it on like a screen. So they look instead of just my
that's cool.
phone, so it's a little more regular looking than sitting here with this tiny little phone and staring at tiny people.
Your hands starting to sweat.
Yeah, hurt trying to get the angle right, because you got to get the up angle for the ladies.
Oh, right, yeah. Get the lighting just right.
Absolutely, yeah, because you can't look bad.
And pretty soon you'll be putting on a pair of glasses and seeing them like in front of you. Some immersive.
Yeah, Zuckerberg just dropped that.
Oh, with him and Lex
Meta?
Friedman, did you see that?
The thing they did with Ray-Ban?
I didn't see that, no.
Okay, yeah, he just did like a PowerPoint, whatever it's called, like when Steve Jobs comes out and talks, we'd come out,
Yeah.
It was one of those type things. And they did, Meta did a thing with Ray-Ban where you got AI in your glasses and cameras. And so now you're going to be able to be, hey, if you've never been to this country or this city, you can be walking around Philly and be like, what building's this? Whatever you name it, like, hey, Chip, what building am I looking at? And it'll say, oh, and it'll either tell you or you can hear it, or it'll be on your glasses. Like, this is the blah,
That's
blah,
cool.
blah, blah. Yeah, and you can now do a full go Facebook Live, Instagram Live while you're walking around town.
Bro.
Yeah, whatever,
That's brilliant.
And some people, I guess that works with, and I could see maybe, if they're influencers and they do certain stuff that works for, but I am still that person that to an extent feels like, other than looking stuff up, that I don't know without the business side of it how active I would be post-wise on social media, because like most of the stuff I do since I've been on it has been so business and portfolio oriented that I've never embraced it from the beginning as this like, hey, look at me, biscuits and gravy, I've never thought, hey, check me out, long walks on the beach, like, hey, sitting here with scraps.
I feel the same way, man. I think it's because we're old.
I think it is too.
Like
I think who gives a fuck? I'm eating meatballs right now.
Yeah, I want to produce something that I'm proud of, and then
show you this thing.
Yeah,
because then it has a reason to exist.
I struggle with the other part. And I get that it's important. I'm not knocking on it. Like, apparently it's important. I mean, the most viewed and loved things all over the internet are not special.
Yeah.
So
I've never Instagram lived anything.
I just don't get it. I feel
never Facebook lived anything.
I feel arrogant. Like,
thank you.
This is me putting on my shoes.
So do I.
Like,
yeah, because you care.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you should care.
Yeah. You don't put your shoes on like I do.
Right.
Look at this shit. So are you a socks then shoe or both socks then both shoes kind of guy?
I feel like an asshole.
I do too.
I feel like an asshole just like
such an arrogant fuck.
Just putting a picture up like a regular picture, even though I know I'm sharing it to the people who care, but I still feel a little bit like an asshole. Like I'm making these people look at me that don't necessarily want to.
Dude, you look at my social media, people don't even know what the fuck I look like. If you haven't met me, and I see the good and the bad of it. Like my buddy Stefano, I worked with New York. He posts himself all the time, and I fuck with him. He's just like beautiful, sexy Latin lover guy, and, but when he walks into a convention, because he's a known tattooer, he's good. Everyone fucking knows who he is.
Yeah.
So there's no like, I get that thing where I go up to someone's booth and like, oh man, I love your work, blah, blah. And like, oh, cool, thanks. I'm just like, yeah, I just want to say hi, love your tattoos, you inspiring or whatever I'm fucking saying to this person. And then later on, they're walking by the booth and they're like, oh shit, I follow you. I know who the fuck you are. Blah, blah, because they'll see my tattoo or the Bohemian thing. Yeah, but they have no idea what the fuck I look like because I don't associate that with mattering. Like the pages that are, like you said, it just seems so arrogant for me to feel like I'm just constantly putting up.
It's
like
a change that's hard
face.
to make. Yeah, it's a hard change to make, dude.
Yeah, it's hard.
Still to this day, I've never taken a selfie. Or I've never posted a selfie. I'm sure I think I've tried to take one before, and I was like, nope.
I don't know if I've ever taken an actual selfie. Is it a selfie when you're in a group of people? And then it's like a wee-wee? I don't know what you call that. Because it's like, yes, I guess I'm technically holding the camera, but it's usually when you're experienced and hanging out with someone. Hey, yeah, we're at the Coterie checking out the band tonight.
Right.
And it's a group of people. And
it's never like a look at me. And I'm not. I don't want to make it sound like I'm hating on people who do that. Cause
I don't either.
I just think
People
it's
make a living
fucking
off it.
weird for me.
It is. Well, and even that, like when
Sometimes when I look in the mirror for too long, I'm like, you're a dick.
what are you doing? Yeah, you should be doing something else. You're
Oh my
you're
God.
developing more hatred.
Oh man, we've been talking for a long time. We'll have to split it up into two posts probably. It's so fun though, man. I really appreciate you coming and talking to me about this stuff.
Me too, man. It's been a good time.
It's always a good time.
I had a feeling this might happen. Though.
Yeah, I know.
My wife was like, well, because I was showing her the page, and she's like, well, it looks like most of them like an hour and a half or so. I was like, man, me and him have rapped nonstop for like 7 hours while I'm tattooing him and like didn't skip a beat. So I don't know how this will go. I'm like,
Yeah.
it could go a while, but we'll see.
We'll have to do it again sometime, and I'll just we'll have like a list of fucking specific things to accomplish.
That we never get to.
Yeah, probably.
A list of shit that don't happen.
Oh man, but thanks for doing this with me. I
Absolutely.
appreciate you as always.
Thank
brother.
you, man.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
All right. Till next time.